South, where people sift through the rubble a tornado left behind. Putting a new foot forward in keeping kids safe, how their shoes could help, and turning the page on a community effort to cook up interest in reading.
Good afternoon, I'm Melissa Bruner. It's a small world, that message from former President Bill Clinton today to a packed Bramlage Coliseum. He delivered a Landon lecture focusing how in today's society, domestic and international relations are one and the same. A question and answer session is still underway inside. 13's Lindsay Shively is live outside with more on what he had to say. Lindsay?
Melissa, it was a packed house. Over 9,000 people crowded in Bramlage Coliseum, and you're right, global togetherness was the message of today's speech. He started off asking how people would describe in one word this century, and he said many would say globalization, but in fact it goes beyond economics, as many would think with globalization. It's about interdependence and social and economic inequality plaguing the world as it is now. He talked about how in his administration things have got a little bit better with inequality and wages, and now median wages are flat, and ways to change that. He posed the question, who is responsible for fixing the world's problems? And as he has now become a citizen and not a governmental organization, he had to ask that himself. And what is it? Where do those problems fall? Everyone has to fix those problems. Here's a look at how he described.
The title of what I'm about to say to you, in part at least, is why there's no dividing line anymore between international and domestic relations. And if you're a Kansas farmer worried about the price of wheat, you know that in one level. If you're a K-State student and you spend half your time on the internet, you know it at another level. With all the problems in the world with unstable circumstances and non-state actors like terrorist groups and organized criminals and drug dealers and all these, you always got to have politics at work with military. There will be very few purely military solutions available, no matter how good we are at what we do. This decade has not seen its source of new jobs. That's the problem. That's when we got flat wages. And yet it is a bird's nest on the ground. If we made a serious commitment to a clean, independent energy future, we would create those jobs in Kansas and across the country.
Again, he was talking about how countries like United Kingdom and Denmark have increased their economies with jobs with efficiency and economic clean fuel efficient in the future, a big thing he touted on. Also touching on healthcare, how United States spends more on healthcare than any other country, and we are getting less, he says. So very important topics, and we will see more of him tonight in Topeka at Washington Days. We'll follow that as well. Melissa, we'll have more at 6.
That speech set for 7 o'clock tonight. Thanks so much, Lindsay. And it looks like the weather should cooperate for the former president's appearance in Topeka tonight and for your weekend plans, too. Let's see if Jeremy Goodwin spots any bumps in the road. Jeremy?
Melissa, it looks like the weather has cooperated very nicely. Now, it's certainly chilly outside, but travel is just fine, albeit a little breezy with winds gusting to 28 miles per hour in Topeka. Concordia down to Salina, the winds are gusting over 40 miles per hour at this time. So if you're heading out this evening, it is only going to get colder. The winds won't relax a lot through the evening hours, and as the temperature falls off into the 30s for most of us, it will only get more uncomfortable as we go through the evening. So anything you need to do outside, I'd get it done very quickly before the sun goes down, because it will get cold very fast. 33 now in Hiawatha. Topeka has 42. Manhattan, you're at 40 degrees. Concordia is at 38 at this time. Again, with that strong breeze over 40 miles per hour and the temperature in the 30s, that is chilly stuff. 40 by 6 p.m., 36 in Topeka with mostly cloudy skies through the evening. A cold breeze tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., 24. Northwest winds 10 to 20. We could see some snow flurries tomorrow as well. However, Sunday looks much warmer, and details are coming up in the 8-day forecast.
Thanks, Jeremy. Geary County authorities are investigating the death of a Fort Riley soldier. The 22-year-old was found yesterday at Milford Lake. Right now, authorities are looking at the case as a suicide. The soldier's name isn't being released until family is notified. Congresswoman Nancy Boyda is overseas today, making her first visit to soldiers in Iraq. She's joined by other members of the House Armed Services Committee. They'll visit soldiers, tour American facilities, and look at effects of the war. Boyda says she hopes to get a better sense of how the conflict is affecting soldiers and their families. She plans to speak with Kansas troops on ways Congress can improve their lives. Last month, Boyda was criticized for voting against a bill that included increased military funding. Her district includes 2 military bases. Heartache and devastation across the South today, the day after a series of powerful tornadoes cut a deadly path through several states, killing 20. Half of those deaths were in Alabama, where a massive twister took aim at a high school, killing 8 students. Susan Roberts has more on how the community of Enterprise is coping.
Those who survived at Enterprise High School say the horror is still sinking in.
I could hear screams and crying.
And memories of the carnage will be with them forever.
I just saw everyone coming out, bleeding.
Students recalled the ominous moments before the tornado hit. The lights started flickering and their ears popped as the air pressure started to change. And then suddenly, the walls came down.
Whenever those rocks started hitting me, I started thinking, I'm really going to die.
He was just covered in blood, and I think that's when everybody realized how bad it really was.
The students who didn't make it out alive were all trapped in a hallway of a wing that took a direct hit. The storm left the gymnasium in shreds. Desks were covered in a hail of debris, and rescuers searched frantically for survivors.
All life is precious, but it's something about losing the life of a child that is distinctly different than losing that of an adult.
President Bush heads to Alabama tomorrow to bring what comfort he can.
I go down with a heavy heart. I go down knowing full well that I'll be seeing people whose lives were turned upside down.
He will also visit Georgia, where twisters killed at least 9, part of a giant weather system that stretched from Minnesota to the Gulf Coast. By Friday, the storm had swept out to sea, leaving behind a huge path of devastation and heartbreak. Susan Roberts, CBS News, Enterprise, Alabama.
A suspect is in custody for a police chase hit and run that critically injured a Wichita reporter. Sedgwick County Sheriff's deputies arrested 39-year-old Albert Follett yesterday. Police believe he was drunk and speeding through Wichita streets last weekend when he hit Alana Roach's car. Rocha remains in critical condition. 2 middle schoolers are suspended over a fight on campus. It happened at Jardine Middle School earlier today. Teachers separated the 2 8th graders who were then taken to juvenile intake. No one was injured, and the cause of the fight has not been determined. Also, a lockdown kept Landon Middle School students in school about 10 minutes late today. Topeka police say a student made threats and they went under lockdown as a precaution until officers were able to locate the student. Gun rights supporters want to curb efforts to shoot down the state's new concealed carry law. Republican Senator Phil Journey says cities and counties have gone too far in regulating gun carrying by permit holders. He's supporting a bill to preempt local firearm laws. One opponent worries the bill would go so far, though, that it would force her to allow armed people into her home. Out-of-state students would foot the bill for university repairs under a new plan being floated at the State House. Lawmakers are trying to figure out how to pay for a $727 million backlog in deferred maintenance at the 6 Kansas Regent schools. A new proposal from House Republican leaders suggests raising tuition for out-of-state students. They say that would raise $33 million for repairs. Among other plans, Governor Kathleen Sebelius has suggested a surcharge on Kansas turnpike tolls. Kansas is one of the worst states in the nation when it comes to keeping an eye on child care. That, according to a new survey. The rankings rate regulation, inspection, safety, and hiring standards. Officials from the Kansas Department of Health and Environment say they're looking into the study to see where improvements can be made, but they also say some national surveys often are not reliable. Topeka's Ramada Inn was host to a statewide event earlier today. The Kansas Prayer Breakfast marked its 41st year. The program featured speeches by Governor Kathleen Sebelius, Senator Sam Brownback, and other political and military figures. About 1,300 people attended the event. It's sponsored by Topeka Fellowship. Hundreds of members of the Hispanic community stepped up at the State House this morning. Today was the 12th annual Hispanic Day on the Hill. State and community leaders stopped by to show their support, including Governor Kathleen Sebelius and Attorney General Paul Morrison. The event focuses on getting Hispanics involved in the legislative process, raising their voices to lawmakers. Organizations from all over the state came to garner support from the crowds. Kansas home builders and do-it-yourselfers could be spoiled for choice this weekend. The Topeka Chamber of Commerce hosted a ribbon cutting earlier today, officially kicking off the Topeka Home Builders Association's Home Show 2007. The event is held every year. This year's show features eco-friendly products along with the latest in home movie theaters and other technology. The event runs through this weekend at the Expo Center. You can visit our website, WIBW.com, to get more information. A massive bus crash kills 6 people. Find out why officials are investigating. It involved a sports team. And caught on tape, a car plows through a laundromat. The story behind the amazing video next on Live at 5.